Hi and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 45. Here we find Goodwill. This is an archetype that loves to gather people together and that cares about the prosperity and the well-being of the community. We're going to look at this archetype of Goodwill from a human design perspective and a Jinky perspective. So right now we have the Sun in Gemini in gate 45, we have the Earth in Sagittarius in gate 26, and the design part of the cross is the 22 in Pisces and the 47 in Virgo. When we look at this from an incarnation cross perspective, we have three crosses. So we have the right angle cross of the rulership, we have the juxtaposition cross of possession, and the left angle cross of confrontation. So I have several people in my life with these crosses. So there is something, I think there is something for me to learn here. I have the 31 in my profile quite strong. So I guess that there is this thing about leadership. The 45 has a more tribal leadership and the 31 has a collective leadership. And I feel like I have sometimes been triggered a little bit by the tribal leadership because I feel like the collective leadership is the right leadership. And I'm learning more and more having those people with the 45 in my life. Also the beauty of the mutation that's going on in more of the tribal leadership. And we in the Jinkies, it goes from dominance to true communion and synergy. So there is this frequency, the low frequency is mutating up to a higher frequency. So the cross that I think most about when I hear the 45, it is the cross of confrontation. And these are people that are here to kind of shake things up and to create some turbulence and some friction. But through that, they can also apply their artfulness, they can apply their leadership skills. So there, it's for something, it is for society, it is for a better world, you could say, and that's why we're calling this archetype Goodwill. There is a reason for it. And then we also have the first right angle cross that has the 22 and the 47. So here it's more like a personal destiny. So this is more to do with a struggle, maybe the feeling of being on the cross or carrying a cross, but then finding your leadership, finding your artfulness, finding how to get through in the world or how to sell in the world somehow. So that's a more personal cross, and it's more about finding your inner grace and transfiguration so that you can come into leadership. And in the cross of possession and confrontation, it's more about shaking things up. Could also be on the inside, but things need to shake up. There has to be some crisis, there has to be some friction. That's what's going to make you step into that place that is much more leader. When we look at it in the body graph without the rave mandala, we see that the 45 comes from the throat center and it meets the 21 in the ego center. So we have already spoken about archetype 21. This is the manager. So you're going to be able to see that they are collaborating. They are harmonic gates. There's a theme for them. So we're going to understand more about that in a second. In the circuitry book, when we look at the whole channel, this is what we call the money channel, and it's the only channel that goes from the throat to the ego. That's the only connection between those two centers. So this is the design of a materialist. I don't even know how that's supposed to be pronounced. And the quick reference theme is: yours is a life where the material plane has to be embraced fully. And it's not natural for you to work for anybody but yourself, since you're uncomfortable with others controlling you in any way. So this goes for both the gates. And you could say that the 21 is more about that energy coming from the will center. And the 45 is more about expressing the leadership, if that makes sense, in a very simplified way. And then the 45, looking at just the gate, it says people are here to oversee the future and wealth of the community. So that is the Goodwill. Is in the higher frequency, it is what cares, right? And if we are going to speak a little bit more about other keywords, so rulership, possession, and generosity, that has to do with the incarnation cross we just looked at. But generosity is also this part of goodwill, that it cares about the whole. Internal motivators, gathering, canvassing, and the well-being of the community. It's whole serving in its high frequency, it's whole serving, it's balance, and it creates prosperity. And of course, the Achilles heel could be that when you are that powerful, in human design we can call it the monarch or the ruler. So there are people that could react to that inherent power that's just naturally expressed, right? And then it's also it can be a little bit arrogant. It wants to have the last word, because if we have somebody who knows how to create the prosperity for the community or for the world, wouldn't we want that person to have the last word? And also, if you're looking between profits and goodwill, what do you want to have? Which one of those do you want to have the last word in the world? So there is something where we should let them have the last word, but that can be a bit triggering. So let's go right into the Jinkies. So in the Jinkies, we know that we speak about a frequency band, and we were already going into that a little bit when I was saying about the dominance frequency and then the higher frequency of synergy and communion. So here I feel like it's very interesting to go in, and I think I didn't really go into that in 2 weeks ago in the 16, which is also a Gemini gate. So here we see that the codon ring of prosperity that is going to change the world from the inside out almost. These are both Gemini energies, and maybe it is because Gemini can see the two faces. It can see profitability and goodwill. It always can see both sides of the coin, and that's probably needed. That's a requirement for being able to create a new world. So if we go into the explanation of the codon ring, and I would love to actually look more at the codon rings, because this is basically the only thing that's written about them as far as I know. So here, this is the master program in your DNA for activating true prosperity. This ring produces a high frequency, generating vast abundance across the gene pools. The ring of prosperity shows us that the more we diversify and unite our resources, the more successful and efficient we will become. Through the fusion of human talent coupled with the power of group synergy, anything becomes possible, which leads to the mystical secrets of genes, the genetic grouping of genius that when brought together can liberate prosperity exponentially throughout our civilization. And of course, here, if we go into both, indifference is the shadow of the 16, dominance is the shadow of the 45. So if you think about everything that's going out in the world, and when people are indifferent, nobody says anything. It can continue forever. When the tribal urge to own is not in balance in the world, of course, if everybody is indifferent to that, there is no change. But when the 16 comes in with its versatility, with its ideas, it's not about saying you guys are wrong, or the people that have all these $1 million, is wrong. It's not about right or wrong. It's about that Gemini energy of seeing different perspectives, of seeing new possibilities, of stepping into new kind of mastery, a new kind of synergy, a new kind of communion. So that's what the 16 and the 45 show us. And they are both throat gates. So there's a new expression that has to happen in the world for the prosperity to unfold, to open up. If we look at it at the I Ching level, we have lake over earth, and it says water returns to serenity. We all drink together the vital nectar of life. So this is showing us that with that versatility, that with the new synergy coming together, it is possible. There are enough resources there's still enough resources in the world. It's still possible to come together. That's that's the short explanation of that. And like I was saying, we still have the Gemini energy in both the 16 and the 45. So curiosity, play, it's mutable air, it is magic, and it's service to spirit. And in the integral human design, we can just see that this channel between the throat and the ego, we call it sustenance here. It's what's holding, it's what's holding humanity in a way. and it's about cooperation. Here we have this dream of cooperation and ownership, sustenance, philanthropy. In the dream arc, it is about ant, buffalo, and ibis, and I had to look that up. So here you see, and it's so funny because I'm in Florida and we have had 8 days of floodings and thunderstorms. So basically the golf court right outside my my house had become a lake, and there are all these things, ibises apparently is their name, all over the place. And I was like, wow. And I was going to walk for the first day outside after that whole week where it didn't stop raining and you couldn't actually go outside the door before not being soaked. It was 30 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Celsius. The humidity was more than 100%, I think. And I was like, oh my God, 7 days of rain. And it seems like the whole floor, like everything when you go out is kind of created for the reptiles and the birds, because that's what and then I saw the golf court like that. And it was kind of interesting. And they are funny, those birds. They're just funny. So I was just standing there for a while and seeing how the world can change in 7 days, basically. I think there might be something more to say. There's a mudra as well that you can purchase. Yeah, I'm not logged in, so it's not going to show, but you can either buy the little 1 minute video here in the living library of the Jinkies, or you can go to Jane Addams to her blog, Jinky Diaries, and there you're going to find it. We're often also putting it in the 64 doors, so you can actually look at it there. So there is something I wanted to say more about the programming partner. So this is part of the incarnation cross that we were looking at in the beginning. So pride and dominance. And this is, like I said, I have a lot of people with this in my life, either on the personality side or the design side. And it's a really tricky combination because it's so much potential. But in the low frequency, it's really tricky because it has this leadership feeling, especially if it's a left angle cross. It makes you feel really that higher intelligence that we have in the 45, because you can see synergy, you can see communion, but somehow in the lower frequency it has this tricky way of dominating. And the thing is that it loves to gather together, it loves to to kind of speak about the community, but in the low frequency there's a subtlety that is often hidden that has to do with that dominance. And it's often even rooted in a poverty consciousness. It speaks about the prosperity, it speaks about the communion, it speaks about the beauty, but it doesn't really believe in it itself. It has that not complete trust. And so that is the pride, in a way, to speak about something and to make it look like something like it isn't. And what we say about the 26 is that it can sell anything, but it's many times what it sells doesn't equal that value. So it is the car salesman that is like, hiding the problems of the car that is sold, that's already being used. But in the higher frequency, it's amazing. But that's the lower frequency, and it's good. I feel like this is something that is very collective. The poverty consciousness. It's something that is really in the conditioning. So that's why the codon ring of prosperity is so amazing. When we bring in that 16, when we bring in that versatility, and suddenly the 45 starts to see all these ways of why it's possible, and the trust comes in, and then the artfulness comes in because it can speak it, and because the ego power is there. This is an ego gate. So there is the action, there is the willpower, it is the heartbeat in order for that to actually happen. So if I was gonna tap into this energy of this transit to the 45, to this ability of canvassing, of gathering together, of feeling what are the next steps for the world, how can we come together? Some of the things is like looking at first, like, are you stuck in a lower frequency? So is there somewhere where you are timid, for example, where you're stuck in a poverty consciousness? Where does your insecurity show up? Is it professionally, or is it in your close relationship? Is it emotionally? Where does that insecurity show up? Can you track it? Because once you become aware, you can pause, and maybe in that, like we were saying often with Richard Rudd's Art of Contemplation, once you pause, you become aware, there can be a pivot in just that awareness, and you can merge with experience in a new way. And one thing can be too, if you don't, you might not feel really that you have poverty consciousness, but are you accumulating things around you? Do you feel like when you have more things around you, you're feeling more safe, you're feeling more grounded? Because then that could be a way of masking that, of actually finding a way, unnatural way of creating that safety. Also, how does dominance show up in your life? Can you see in your relationship that you're often dominating others, or are you the dominated one? Do you fall, what do you often fall into one of those two categories? And then I feel also right now it's like we are asked in a different way to step up to our leadership roles, because first and foremost, self-leadership is super important, because we can't trust everything that was functioning in society before. So where in your life do you see that you need to step up to your leadership? And is it on the inside first, or are you already ready to become a role model for some kind of leadership? Where are you ready to walk your talk? That's so much about that 46. That's when it shifts from the shadow to the gift. It's like, it's not only speaking because it's a throat, it's actually the action of it when it is coupled with that 16 in the codon ring of prosperity, or the programming partner. When you have that whole thing, you have the heart to do it, you have the energy to do it, you have all the parts, and then it just happens. And then some of the question can be, do you believe in goodwill? Do you think that this materialistic world is, or the free markets and all that, do you think that's going to be the end of it, that's going to kill us? Or do you believe that goodwill, like, can you see the place of goodwill? Can you see what can fall apart maybe in order to come back in a better way? What are the systems that are here to fail so that we can create better things? And then also just look at the synergy, the collaboration. Like, do you believe in true teamwork with others? Do you believe in communion? Do you believe in the sacred marriage? Are these things that you last week we're asking, do you believe in magic? That's the 35. And now it's like, do you believe in synergy? Do you believe in synergy? Do you believe in coming together? Do you believe in gathering around one cause that is similar for all human beings? And like that power of co-creation. Where in your life are you tapping into it? Are you ready to tap into it? Can be in your relationships, can be professionally, can be, there's so many different ways of co-creating. And can you start to not only trust them, but actually engage in them? So I am wishing everybody a great transit in the archetype of goodwill. Thank you.